So where we last left off is we had laid out our square flat and we were able to line up corner to corner that we did in fact have the right sized square. So this single crochet square had been 28 stitches across. However, it ended up about 34 rows tall. So what I'm getting ready to do is add a border stitch that's going to be 28 stitches all the way around every single edge. We'll be doing every single block this same way. You will want 28 stitches around all 4 edges. That way, when we're ready to turn them into a big blanket, they'll all be the same size. So I just did that first starting stitch, and I'm going to just go back across to do the first edge on this single crochet square. So here we're still going to have 28 stitches because we were already doing rows of 28. This first one will be super easy for us. We're going to follow this all the way down, and when we get to the really very last one is when we're going to have something a little new. We'll be turning a corner, and we'll be making a perfect corner by doing 3 stitches in the same space. And that's going to help turn that edge, and it's going to help make it so that the edge is really smooth and just really pleasant to look at, and it'll make it easier to work with once we're done with all of those squares and we're ready to put them together. So I'm almost down to the end here. Just going to finish this up. Okay, so here we go. I'm at the last 2. So 27. And here is stitch 28. Uh-oh, this one turned out a little wonky. There we go, stitch 28. So to turn the corner, we're going to go back into the same stitch 2 more times. There's my second one. And here's the third one. All right, and now we're looking at the other edge. That third stitch is going to count as our first on the new row. Now again, this row it's not going to be perfectly 28 stitches across. The stitch heights are going to vary, so you are going to have to count and measure out adding 28 stitches evenly across these weird rows. What I counted out is that if I skip one every 4 stitches, I should end up with about 28 by the time I reach the other side. So what I mean by that is, again, this counts as 1. I'm going to go into this next opening. That'll be 2. This next opening will be 3. Oops, sorry. Next opening, 4. Now again, 34 rows. I don't want to go into 34 holes. I only want to go into 28. So to space that evenly, I'm going to skip that next space and jump over to this one. This will be stitch number 5. I'm going to continue 6. 7. 8. That was my set of 4. I'm going to skip that space and move on to this one. That'll be stitch number 9. And for what I counted out, if I follow this pattern, I should end up with 28 stitches across. And again, each time you finish a block, you will just have to put in some work and figure out how our 28 stitches going to fit evenly all the way down. You can always go back and count and make sure that you have 28. If you have to pull some out and start over, that's no big deal. It might be some trial and error. But by the time I come back, we will have clean seams, and each side will have 28. All right, so I have made my way around all four edges of my square, so you can see that they're all pretty, they all look the same now. And at this last one, I am actually stopped at 27 out of 28. So if you recall, when we first got started, we started with stitch 1 and counted to 28. So now we're at the end, I'm at 27. I'm going to go stitch 28. And I'm going to stitch one extra in the same spot to stay consistent with that rounded edge, because we had 3 per corner. So now that I have 2 plus my first one, we're pretty much caught up. Now this bit is a little weird. You're going to see a strange knotted kind of looking piece. That was our original stitch that we built up just to make our row easier. This is our first actual stitch of that row. So to finish off, I'm going to go into this stitch, pull this yarn through, and then I've kind of connected those seams. To snip this off and actually tie and finish off, we are now going to pull loose yarn through the stitch and simply tighten it down, and voila, we should have a nice clean corner. So we are going to move to the blocking board, get this set in place, and move on to the other squares in the series. So to set on our blocking boards, what I'm doing is going into the corners where we had 3 stitches into that same space, and I'm just looping that corner around my dowel. Now my blocking board I made on my own. You can see the video for that. It just was like a simple picture form. You can certainly get a more professional one if that's your style. It's up to you. But what I'm doing now is I'm pulling my 4 corners all the way down and set. This first style is going to be really tight in between, just because the single crochet is so small. So what I plan to do is even put some pins in between a little more. And then as we continue through the series, I will be getting all these straightened out.